What's poppin', guys? So I've got Leah for the day. Well, for the next few hours. Allison just got dropped off at her surgery. She'll be fine. She's all worked up and worried, but she'll be okay. Leah's sleeping right now, and I have to go do my weekly COVID test that my job requires me to do. So we are currently at Walgreens. Probably can't see it right now, but we're currently at Walgreens. Now I'm gonna go take my test.
Okay, once you're done with that, go ahead and take out the test tube and carefully open because there's liquid inside.
It breaks off at the half.
And then place it back into the testing bag. And then place the testing bag back into the yellow bin. And then that'll be all. Do you have any other questions?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
God, I hate getting tested. Especially when you gotta do it to yourself. Like you're torturing yourself. It sucks. Oh, somebody's awake. But I think we're gonna go to the car wash and get this car a bath. So, I didn't really make any plans for today, so I really don't know what we're doing. So we just came down to Old Sac to walk around and have a nice morning out by the water and do things. So the hospital called and said that we were ready to come pick her up. So now we're just waiting out in the parking lot, waiting for them to bring her out to the car. And I think I need to go to the pharmacy to get her things, but I don't know where that is. So we're gonna have to find that too. But we'll figure that out when we get there. We're just waiting on her right now. See how out of it she is.
Hi guys, I am back from surgery. Today is actually the 20th, so I had my surgery on the 17th, and I'm alive, I'm okay, I'm recovering pretty good, I would say, but yes, I survived my first surgery. So I kind of wanted to do a story time because a lot of you that were following along with my TikTok, you guys know how nervous I was for this surgery. Again, it was my first surgery. I've never had surgery before, never been put under, put to sleep, nothing like that. So I was really, really nervous. But everything is a-okay, I'm okay, and it all went really, really well. My actual experience though is kind of interesting and not what I thought at all. My surgery was supposed to be at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, and I thought since it was going to be so late in the day at 3 that I was going to have to stay the night. Like, I thought that they were going to do the surgery, however long that takes. Then they were going to watch me for a while, and I would probably have to stay one night and leave maybe in the morning. That's what I was thinking. So I pumped enough milk for Leah for like 48 hours because I didn't know if I would have to stay the night. I didn't know, you know, I've heard people say that they made sure that they were able to use the bathroom before they were like released from the hospital, and I didn't know if that was true. So I just kind of had it in my head that I was going to stay one night since my surgery was at 3 p.m. Well, on Monday, the day before my surgery, they called to make sure everything's still on track, that you have followed the guidelines that they've given you, things like that, to tell you that you can't eat past midnight, kind of just to go over everything. They give you a call before your surgery. And they told me that my arrival time was at 9:30 in the morning. And I was like, oh my god, so you're telling me that my arrival time is at 9:30 and I'm going to have to sit and wait until 3 p.m. in the hospital? But I didn't know, so I was like, that sucks, but okay. So he's talking on the phone, and like another thing that they gave me was this really sugary drink, and he told me that I had to drink that 2 hours before my arrival time. So I would have to drink it at 7:30 in the morning. And I was like, okay. And then he just made sure that I like used the wipes that they give me to clean myself after the shower, you know, kind of just going through everything. And then he was like, and last thing I'll tell you, like he's on the phone. He's like, the last thing I'll tell you is we don't keep you longer than 4 hours for a gallbladder surgery. You're in and out within 4 hours of your arrival time. And I was like, wait, my arrival time was 9:30, but my surgery's at 3? And he said, your surgery's not at 3, your surgery's at 11. So I was like, okay, well, the other nurse told me it was at 3, so I got confused. But thank goodness it wasn't at 3, because that made me feel better knowing that I would go in early and be out early. So he said to make sure that whoever was picking me up after surgery would be back at the hospital around 1 p.m. And again, that made me feel so good knowing that by 1 p.m. I would be home. So again, my arrival time was set at 9:30, surgery was at 11, and I would be home by 1. So that's kind of what I was going into that night before surgery, thinking like, okay, it's going to be fast, it should be pretty easy, I'll be okay. But obviously, like, I worked myself up because I was nervous. It was my first ever surgery. I was scared. So Tuesday morning came, and at 7:30 I drank that drink, which it reminded me of the gestational diabetes test that they do when you're pregnant. It was just like a really sugary drink. So I drank that drink, and then from then on I wasn't allowed to drink anything else anymore. I hadn't ate or anything. And around 9 o'clock we head out to the hospital, and my heart is like beating. I was so nervous. So Michael drops me off at 9:30, and they take me into the back and they make me change. And the nurses were really nice, they were really funny, and I really appreciate that. They made me feel a lot better. They were just kind of like cracking jokes with each other and trying to make like us that were, you know, waiting, laughing and stuff, because the building I went to was specifically for outpatient surgeries. So everybody else that was there waiting around or in a bed, like we were all having surgery soon. So they were like trying to make us all laugh and have a good time, which again, I appreciate that. And then the guy, so I'm wearing a mask, and the guy comes over, the nurse comes over, and he's like, you don't have like any retainers or any piercings or anything else that needs to come out, right? And I was like, oh, I have my nose rings. And I said, I haven't taken my nose rings out since I got them pierced. Like, my skin is prone to getting keloids, so I don't mess with my nose rings at all. I was like, I've never taken them out, I don't know how to take them out, and I don't even know if they will come out. And he's like, well, when you have the anesthesia and the tubes up your nose and everything, those can, you know, get misplaced and go into your lungs. So all nose piercings do have to be removed. So I was like, okay, great. And I was kind of nervous because one time my nose ring fell out and I didn't know how to put it back in, and I couldn't get it in. So I had to let my nose ring close, and I eventually got it re-pierced, but now I was scared that like I was gonna lose my nose rings. I wasn't gonna be able to get them back in, and I wouldn't have them anymore. But obviously that was like the least of my worries. So he comes over with a mirror and a flashlight, and he's like, try to take them out. So I'm sitting here struggling, finally get my nose rings out, kind of sad, and like got my nose rings out. And so after that, like it was probably like 10 o'clock, like time was just kind of really going. So again, by 10, nose rings are out, I'm all dressed, I'm like ready to pretty much go, but I know that they said that my surgery was at 11. But all of a sudden, the surgeon comes over and he introduces himself, and he's like, oh, you're lucky number 3. You're my 3rd gallbladder I've had this morning. And I was like, wow, okay. Which obviously made me feel even more better knowing how like common this was. And so he introduced himself, and then the anesthesiologist lady came over and she introduced herself. And all of a sudden, like I'm sitting there texting Michael, and I remember looking at the time and it was 10:30. And the anesthesiologist lady was like, okay, turn your phone off. We're gonna roll you back into the OR, and I'm gonna put this mask over you. And I was like, what? Like, it's only 10:30. Like, I just was not ready for that. And she literally like starts putting the mask over my face and wheeling me down. So she's like telling me all kinds of things. She's like, we're gonna go into this really bright room, just relax. A lot of the stuff in there is not for your surgery. You're gonna hear all of us talking and probably repeating your name, just making sure we're all on the same page. And she's kind of just talking to me as she's wheeling me down to the operating room. But I'm like, I'm crying, like I cried. And I will say that I cried, I was crying. And she was like, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. So we get into the OR, and she was right. It was like extremely bright. Like it was the whitest, brightest room I've ever seen. And I just hear them saying like, Allison, 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 gallbladder, gallbladder, gallbladder. Like they're all repeating it and everything just like she said. And then that's all I remember. Then I was asleep. And waking up, this is the part where it kind of just like blows my mind on how like advanced things are in technology and how fast just things work. Because I remember what woke me up is my throat was on fire. It hurt so bad. So I was like gagging and coughing. And the nurse that was next to me, this new nurse that I didn't, some other new lady, she was like, oh, good morning. Yeah, your throat's gonna be really sore. That's from the anesthesia being intubated. And I was like, okay, makes sense, you know, stuff down my throat, whatever. But as she's talking to me, like I'm still asleep. I feel like my eyes are like rolling in the back of my head, and I don't really know what she's saying. I can just hear her, and I'm like falling asleep and everything. And all of a sudden she goes, but I'm glad you're awake, so let's get dressed. And I was like, I'm not even really awake. Like I literally it didn't even feel like I could do anything. And she was like, come on, sit up, let's get dressed. And I just remember like, she's floating around, my eyes were in the back of my head, like I'm sleeping. What is she talking about? And then I hear this guy, this other nurse, come running from the other side with my nose rings. And he's like, here, I'm gonna put these back in for you. I feel bad that you had to take them out. And again, I'm like, I'm looking at him, but I was not looking at him. I was not understanding anything. And all of a sudden, he's like sticking these nose rings back in my nose, which now like I really appreciate that he did that, because I don't know if I would have known how to get them back in. I have 2 of them, and I just feel like I would have been annoyed, or like it would have hurt to put them back in. So I'm glad he kind of did it, but it was just so like, I didn't even know what was going on. I was so out of it, and he's just like shoving the nose rings back in. And so then the lady, she's like, I'm closing the curtains, I need you to get dressed. And so she closes the curtain, and like still my eyes are rolling in the back of my head. I'm like trying not to fall asleep. I don't even really know what's happening, and yet she's telling me to hurry up and get dressed. So I get dressed, and she's like, okay, get in the wheelchair, your husband's waiting for you outside. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I swear, like, it was just all so fast. The second I woke up, they were like, I don't want to say rushed me, but I swear they were like rushing me out. And that's the part that was so weird to me, because I like literally just woke up from coughing and she was like, okay, get dressed, let's go. And I don't even know what was happening. Like, it was just so crazy. So I get in the car and Michael's like, hey, how you feeling? And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm awake. Like, I don't know. And so we go home and I think I just like went back to sleep. But I just remember, like, that part was so weird to me, how fast they woke me up and then made me get dressed and go. Like, it was so fast. Like, I left the hospital at 12. So if I went into surgery at 10:30, they say the surgery is like an hour long, 11:30. They let me sleep for like 30 minutes and then it was just bam, leave. Like, it was crazy. But I'm glad it was really fast and the nurses were all very nice, and I'm glad that that one stuffed the nose rings back in my nose for me. So it was overall like a really good experience, but it was definitely not what I was thinking, because I thought I would be there overnight and they would do a lot of like watching me to make sure like I don't get a fever and stuff, but they just kicked me right on out. But yeah, so recovery, everybody on TikTok told me that the gas pains in your shoulder are the worst part, and I agree. Those were terrible. I finally just got rid of those. I don't have that gas anymore stuck inside of me. Like, I think it's all gone out now, because now I'm just really tired. I want to sleep all the time, I think from the medication or something. And I'm sore, obviously. My abdomen is really sore. But other than that, like, I'm doing good, and every day just gets better. So that was my first surgery story, and it probably doesn't even seem like interesting to you guys if you've had surgery before, or you guys are probably like, duh, that's how it works, Allison, come on. But like, to me, that was a big moment, and that was my story. So I'll see you guys in another video.